and gentlemen, we got actual proof of Raheem Devon in the house tonight. They just came off tour, and they gonna show you how they do it with they.
Hey, welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. This is your boy Mongo Slade, and today we're going to talk about Smackdown being WWE's diversity show. Now, for starters, I want to talk about diversity and the concept of, racial theories and all that type of stuff. For starters, I really don't subscribe to that shit. As a libertarian, I believe in individualism. So I don't believe in quote-unquote representation or anything like that. I don't believe that. There's too many black people for one person or a group of them to represent black America. It's just not possible. Not everybody is represented by any black figure. So we should all look to be and strive to be individuals. But that being said, and I don't really buy into critical race theory and all that other nonsense. But let's just talk about this because I find it's more of a pattern of behavior. In about 1998, 1999, a black and Samoan wrestler named Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson becomes one of the most popular guys in the history of the business. He popularizes a phrase called Smackdown, and which became WWE's second show, the WWE Smackdown show. And ever since then, The Rock has been sort of the franchise player of Smackdown. When they did the brand split, The Rock was moved, of course, to Smackdown, which is The Rock's show. It was considered to be The Rock's show. And ever since then, it has been the history of blacks and Latinos watching Smackdown and it being a favorite among that particular group, especially Hispanics. It has been crazy. I've seen numerous times on WWE's corporate website, through USA Today articles, various other articles, that Smackdown is a beloved brand specifically for Hispanics and blacks. So there's a lot of different reasons for that. One of them is because Smackdown was largely on network TV while Raw was on cable. And since blacks and Latinos are more likely to be poor than whites, historically, then blacks and Latinos had access to Smackdown more than they had access to Raw, right? So because Raw was on cable. So that helps that, and then also Hispanics have a very strong cultural tradition of pro wrestling. They really love wrestling in Mexico and in Puerto Rico, especially because there's multiple wrestling promotions in Mexico and in Puerto Rico. So wrestling is really is a really traditional, beloved thing in the Hispanic society. And also, in blacks, we like aggression. We like, hip hop, basically stuff like that. So when you look at when The Rock started to fade out, right? The Rock left, and The Rock left in 2002, 2003. They went with Brock for a little while, but then after Brock left, what did they do? They went straight into the demographics that were watching the show: Eddie, Ray, Chavo, those types of guys, right? And so you had. These were guys that were not getting pushed on Raw. For starters, Rey Mysterio debuted on SmackDown, right? They built up Rey to be a star and debuted him on SmackDown. It didn't, the Cruiserweight division completely also was diverse because you had Tajiri was in the division, and it was the home of a lot of other Hispanic wrestlers. Later would come Juventud Guerrera and Super Crazy and Psychosis. Those guys would come in later. And populate the Cruiserweight division when the Cruiserweight division was actually a little bit of something, before it, became nothing and midgets was winning the title and stuff like that. But SmackDown became the home of the non-white dude, right? Eddie. Then you had Ray. Then you had Booker T, right? Booker T became world champion on SmackDown. Then you just started having, the door was open. Alberto Del Rio, Mark Henry, the Great Khali. Then you had, I already said Alberto. Then you had Jinder Mahal became the WWE champion on SmackDown. They had that big Indian presentation on SmackDown. SmackDown has always been WWE's diversity show, the land of opportunity for those who are not quote unquote white, right? And I didn't really notice it. But then you look at even the debuts. Look at who they have debuted on SmackDown. MVP debuted on SmackDown. MVP is not white. Same thing with Lashley. Same thing with, I already said Ray and Alberto Del Rio and Shinsuke Nakamura, right? So they use SmackDown to bring in the diverse audience, Everybody, even if the champion is white, there's usually a large population of people who are not white on the show, and that's very interesting. And now that SmackDown is back on network TV when they're on Fox, what did they do? They went with non-white people to be the front of the promotion. New Day first, right? First it was the New Day, then they switched them with the Street Profits. They went younger with the Street Profits. Then they had Bayley. Bayley's Hispanic. Then they swapped her out for Sasha Banks, right? Then you had The Fiend and Braun Strowman were the top guys in 2020. And then they moved them out of the way. They brought in Roman, right? Roman was probably already going to be on SmackDown because he was a favorite among Fox. But Roman is also not white. Roman is Samoan, right? Sasha Banks is not white. She's black and I think she's black and Hispanic. So you have this even with Big E, the big Christmas match, Big E and Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn is not even white. Sami Zayn is Syrian, right? So you look at these types of situations where even going back a couple of years when they put Muhammad Hassan on SmackDown, even though he debuted on Raw, they put him on SmackDown for his big run with The Undertaker. Then he ended up having to kill the character because, negative stereotypes about Muslims and all that type of stuff. And continuing with Muslims, Mustafa Ali was pulled from 205 Live to put on SmackDown, right? And so you have, history of SmackDown being the spot and the place for non-white wrestlers. And it's a mirror of the audience, because no matter when you look, SmackDown is almost always within the top 4 or 5, maybe even the top 2 or 3 amongst Latinos and blacks in viewership. Like, they really like the show. So they're just catering to that audience. And it makes sense. But I don't think anybody ever just came out and said, like, SmackDown's our diversity show. They just kind of put different people on SmackDown and let's see what works. They even do things that even with people who may not even be, you may not identify as being quote unquote person of color, like Batista. Remember when Batista became the champion on Raw? But it wasn't long before they moved Batista to SmackDown. Now you may say, well, how is Batista a person of color? Batista is Filipino. He's half Filipino. He's Filipino and Greek. So they looked at him and said, he's half a minority, or he's a minority. Put him on SmackDown. And that's what they did. And it's almost, I don't know if it's on purpose or if that's just kind of how it is. But they have just seen SmackDown as being the place where you could populate it with non-white people and it still be a success. Even to a degree of maybe it's not, a huge John Cena type of success, but it is still, they're able to maintain. Come as no surprise that, Jey Uso gets main event spots on SmackDown because Jey Uso is not white. Jey Uso is Samoan. So it all starts to make sense, where if you look at SmackDown as WWE's brown brand, where, if you're not white, you have a better chance on SmackDown. And look, SmackDown has had numerous different writers and writing styles and stuff like that, and this pattern remains. The pattern remains that guys and girls who are not white get more opportunities on SmackDown. And I don't know why. I would love maybe somebody ask Bruce, let's all form like Voltron and ask Bruce Pritchard about it. We all just tweet Bruce and whenever some type of ask Bruce situation, let's see if this was planned. Was it planned that SmackDown was going to be the brown brand? That everybody who is not white, that, Hispanics, blacks, Asians, Filipinos, Indians, Arabs, Muslims, Pakistanis, whatever, they're going to get their big break on SmackDown. Because, hell, it's, and just being honest, it's very, very difficult to see black people breaking through on Raw. It's rare. It's really rare. Usually the Hispanics that break through on Raw have already broken through on SmackDown. Alberto Del Rio or Rey Mysterio and stuff like that. But, so that's just a thought that I had, just a theory that I'm posting out there. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. But, again, I do not subscribe to racial representation theory and all that bullshit. It's just something that I thought was interesting. So let me know what you guys think. use the hashtag 3Count Commentaries to support the channel. Also, send money via Cash App if you can. And I appreciate you, and I thank you for your time.
Yeah.